Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to our first webinar dedicated to internal quality in built environment and purification methodologies, methods, and technicalities associated with the latest technologies available in the world. I am Christian Chernat, the CEO of Lightray, a South African company. Lightray objective is to create a holistic approach to the air purification in built environment. Such intensity of news, technologically speaking, but also news from the virology, bacteriology research being done around the world, due mainly and of late to the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has brought up a lot of questions from the public, from the main public, with regards to the available technologies and the ability of these technologies to enhance, to protect, to mitigate, to reduce the impact of viral and bacteriological infections in building and built environment, generally speaking. Our vision as Lightray has been from the very beginning to give back the certainty of a healthy, of a safe and joyful living experience in the built environment. With 30 years of experience in built environment through air conditioning systems installed in 5 different countries, we have learned a very simple and very important thing. The healthier, the cleaner, the more, I would say, pleasant the environment is in the built environment, the happier the workforce, the happier the people around, and therefore an increased productivity takes place. In order for us to be able to protect the built environment, of course, we use technologies. Today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our exclusive partner from Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Novaerus. From Novaerus, we have today Deidre de Wit and Simon Bockett, which will introduce you guys to the Novaerus universe. A universe of incredible results in a very short span of time. Even so, Novaerus has not come into the market with a product due to the pandemic, but rather due to an incredible history of research, certification, activities, spanning about 10 years in the past. Therefore, without further ado, I will introduce to you the one and only Deidre de Wit.
Thank you very much, Christian. That's some intro. I hope I can follow it. I am just going to share my screen here, everybody. Hello, and I'm delighted to be here today, and I hope we can share some stories and impart some customer experiences from Ireland, from this part of the world, and hopefully they're relevant to you also. Let me just try and share my screen here and we can get going. So I presume everybody can see that. Somebody might nod if you can, or when you can. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so as Christian introduced there, we are going to talk to you today a little bit about indoor air quality, and I kind of thought maybe the spin should be the way forward, and not looking back and trying to find a new path forward. So I'm just going to go through a bit of background on ourselves, the problem that we're all facing, and the proposed solution, which of course is Novaerus Nanostrike technology, and some applications of the technology here in Ireland. Just a bit of background on ourselves to start. The McGreal's Group distribute Novaerus devices to business and healthcare in Ireland. We are one of 2 distributors. The other distributor is a company called Fannin, and they're very well established in the healthcare sector, as in hospitals and medical. So they look after hospitals and medical, and we look after everything else. We started back in pretty much March 2020. We are a pharmacy group originally, with 11 pharmacies in Ireland. And we also have a primary care centre, which was built just outside of Dublin, the capital. So very early on, when COVID hit, I suppose, we realised that our staff were going to be frontline and the pharmacies were going to remain open. And at that time, everybody was scrambling to understand what protections they could put in place for their staff. So we came across the Novaerus technology, which is Irish and only manufactured down the road from us. So we installed the devices in all of our pharmacies to protect our staff initially. And then, liking the technology and the science so much, we approached Novaerus about taking the distributor license, I suppose, for the country. So since then, we've seen really rapid growth, and I will walk you through that a little bit. We've gone through all the various stages of emergency and lockdown, probably very similar to yourselves, and we're only coming out of what's supposed to be the last one. We saw early adopters, buying on the phone. And then I guess really we had to get our heads around selling air and selling cleaner air. And that's what we're here today as well to talk to you about. So in operations, as I say, since March 2020, I guess the question we need to answer today is, what does the post-COVID world and workplace need to look like? What do employees and employers want? What do you want, and where do you sit, and at what point are you at right now? We took very much a prosumer approach, and for those of you that aren't familiar with that term, it's really about people buying stuff and talking about it and spreading the word. And in Ireland at the moment, really, I suppose word of mouth has become a feature of our sell and of the device and the technology itself. So let me just move on there, sorry. So just a little bit of fun to start. Make sure you're all awake and paying attention. I'd like to thank Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey for the courtesy of this image, but I just thought, they say a picture paints 1,000 words, and this one certainly does. You have this poor, lonely, depressed, tired, confused guy sitting on a bench on his own with a bottle of whiskey in his hand. Irish whiskey is one of our biggest exports in the world. I'm sure you're all familiar, if it's one of the top whiskeys in the world, and it's one of our success stories. However, this poor guy is lamenting the fact that he'd like to be in the company of his friends, having that face-to-face, in-person interaction, having the chats, the banter, as we call it in Ireland, talking about what's happening with their families, with their work situations. So I know it's a pub or a bar setting, but I mean, I don't think it's too unlike the workplace and the return to the workplace. This is what we need to address. We need to get people back into office spaces. City centres and downtown in most major cities need to recover their office space, their real estate offerings. We need to change our offering, and we need to address the fact that indoor air quality has probably been underestimated and underplayed and undervalued for far too long. And I know here in Ireland, a lot of our buildings pre-2000 are not fit for purpose from a ventilation perspective. We are faced with the challenges of non-opening windows, of HVAC systems, whether people want them on or not. There's lots of challenges there. So I just thought we'd start with this to kind of understand where we want to get to, and where we want to get to is the picture in the puddle down below, and that's back together, happy, being innovative, spontaneous conversations, sparking ideas, having that spontaneous conversation in the office that you wouldn't get when you're at home, and that you can't get when somebody doesn't answer the phone or doesn't answer your Zoom call. So just a little bit of fun to start, but let me talk a little bit about our client industry here in Ireland. This is essentially kind of a high level breakdown of the various different sectors, and I've just put that you are here because I'm sure everybody on this call is in one of these sectors, and we have sold across every sector here in Ireland. You'll see from, I suppose, the largest chunks of the pie chart there that healthcare, professional services and hospitality are really our most popular. And we have sold, the most devices into these areas. When I look at healthcare, I have a breakdown on the next sheet here. I guess a lot of the sections in healthcare, a lot of the individual, I suppose, businesses maintained or had to open throughout the various stages of lockdown or emergency. And as such, they were very quick out of the traps to buy devices because they needed to protect their staff and customers. So if you have a look at the funnel there, which is our healthcare breakdown, you'll see we have dentists, pharmacy, veterinary, physio, opticians, psychotherapists and counselling, and med or lab testing, which had to continue for hospitals to support hospitals, but also COVID sample testing, which was, it became a huge business, obviously, all around the world. You know, in speaking about the various sectors, I just want to highlight one there, and that's psychotherapists and counsellors. And who knew in Ireland, and I'm not sure what the situation is where you are, that we have thousands of psychotherapists and counsellors. Unfortunately, around the world, a lot of those services turned to telephone during the past 18 months. However, it's very difficult to counsel or support somebody if you can't meet them in person and if you can't see their face. So I've put a little graphic there of the smallest Novaerus device in, and I'll talk about it in a while, but I mean, that really was key to a lot of those counsellors and psychotherapists and supporting people. The device was placed between them and the patient, and it facilitated continuity of service throughout, which was important. So that's just a little bit of a breakdown of one of our sectors, and I'm sure there are plenty of you there who are in those sectors. So why are we here today? We want to talk a little bit about indoor air quality, what we are breathing. And you're here because you obviously acknowledge the benefits of good indoor air quality, and you want to do your best for your businesses and your staff and your customers. But there is uncertainty about finding the way forward, no doubt. And we have a phrase here in Ireland, which is really around being indoor uneasy. Now, as the winter hits in Ireland, we are going to become outdoor uneasy because it's turned cold. I know you guys are probably heading into summer, if I'm correct in saying that, but that faces its own challenges in offices with air conditioning and attitudes to air conditioning and the maintenance of air conditioning and the ability to open windows when potentially there's a building site outside your window, and from a noise perspective and a dust perspective, you can't have your windows open. We also commissioned research here in the last couple of months, and I just thought I'd share some of it with you as we go through. We did that. So we got a sample of just over 1,000 people of different ages, and we asked them lots of questions around the past year to see where they were at from an awareness perspective. So when we started 1 year ago, the question was, is it airborne? And I'm not just going to talk about COVID today, because we're talking about indoor air quality in general. But, you know, until the CDC and the WHO and the British Medical Journal and lots of others came out very late to more or less acknowledge the predominance of airborne spread via aerosol, we were all kind of in the dark. So from last year, I'll be very honest with you, we were selling air, we were selling the concept of air, and it was hard for people to get their heads around it. And saying that, we had a rapid year growth because all of those businesses that I've pointed out or highlighted to you needed something to mitigate the risks in as much as they possibly could. So our own research only of a couple of months ago still shows that more than 1 in 3, so over a third of those sampled or those questioned, are very concerned about coming out of the home, coming out of their home settings, whether that's to use public transport, to go back to work, to socialize. That's so 1 in 3 are still very concerned about that. Yet we have this imbalance of when they're craving this interaction, or they have to go back to work. And let's admit it, you know, not every job can be done from home, especially hospitality and others. So as we open here in Ireland, tomorrow is our kind of our I wouldn't call it a freedom day. We are more or less opening fully tomorrow. We would expect a lot of the jobs that people had lost will come back around, and indeed, you know, the economy seems to be recovering relatively quickly here. So let's move on from there. I hope I'm not speaking too fast now, but let's talk about the air we breathe. So something in the air we breathe, that was a song, wasn't it? Well, you're all aware that we spend the vast majority of our time indoors, that we inhale 11,000 litres of air per day. We drink 3 litres of water or fluid, and we eat that amount of food. When we drink the water, we want to have clean water. In fact, most of you are probably drinking from a water bottle or a water filter right now. And despite the pressures of the last year and the COVID stone, or pounds as we call it over here, we do strive to eat nutritious food. So as a result, we really need to change how we think about the air that we breathe. And as I said, we've undervalued it and underestimated it, I think, for far too long. And now with the return to workplaces, people are asking, really, what have you done since I have not been in the office 18 months ago? That's what we're seeing here. I'm assuming a lot is similar. I'm sure there'll be questions later about that. But beyond COVID, you know, we still know what viruses and bacteria and mold spores and the challenges, I suppose, that indoor air brings. Nobody wants to go back to the office to a situation where they're sitting beside somebody who is clearly not well. We don't need to accept that anymore. We don't want to accept that anymore. And in certain circumstances, you know, it's going to be difficult for companies to resolve those issues. There might not be a hard engineering solution that allows them to fix it. This is where Novaerus comes in. Again, just I suppose to highlight the spread of anything in the air really, and how far it can spread. And this was the argument for the past year. Is it in the air? It might be in large droplets full. That's not a risk. Well, it is, because what about smaller droplets? And what about those aerosols? And that's where we're at right now. And that's what we need to address. Our own research again here in Ireland would indicate, just from about a month or so ago, that about 80% of the people surveyed agreed, you know, that they now know that COVID is airborne, and that they're concerned about everything else that's airborne. However, you know, beyond COVID, as I said, we need to think about the improvements we need to make to indoor air. As Christian talked in the intro there's many benefits to cleaner indoor air. A lot of them, you know, are physical and health based, and, you know, we don't want to be ill in Ireland. I think the cost of absenteeism is into millions every year. I'm probably underestimating it there, but overall health and well-being, you feel better. You know, kids after lunch in schools, when they come indoors in Ireland, if windows are closed because it's cold, for example, you know, you're going to get spikes in CO2. That's normal. That's been happening for years. However, now, you know, spikes in CO2 might indicate poor ventilation or a need to ventilate more. We have a lot of school clients who have CO2 monitors, for example, in their classrooms. However, they might not have windows. They might not be able to leave the windows and doors open. We've had 2 very cold winters, and people are getting tired of that. They're actually, in fact, feel they're getting more ill because the windows can't be left open. Again, this is where Novaerus is potentially your solution. And we have sold to many schools where classrooms open onto indoor consoles, or where there isn't natural ventilation, or indeed where mechanical ventilation can't be of help. So, you know, reduced absenteeism, I've mentioned, improved productivity. Our own research, again, just in this regard, you know, identifies that people clearly now can see that improving ventilation will help, and they're open to technology, but they're open to safe technology. And there is a lot of competition out there, which is not the same as what Novaerus does. It's surface cleaning, or it's point in time, or there are options which cannot be used with people in the room. And one of the benefits, obviously, of Novaerus technology is that it's safe and it's 24/7. It's, you know, you place the devices near the people. You want to create that bubble of safe air around the people in the room. It's not just about the building, it's about the people. Unfortunately, it's people that carry the pathogens, and it's people that we want to protect. So to move on then, again, to try and keep it a little bit lighthearted, we've all spent a long time on Zoom. Here we are again this morning. I don't need to know who's wearing their pajamas, but, you know, to have an actual desk with a comfy chair, to be able to chat sporadically with colleagues without having to pick up the phone and wait for them to answer, to have a lunch meeting, you know, to not have your kids coming in to the side of the screen looking for something, to have a coffee break, you know, without having to have necessarily a scheduled coffee break. So it's just that the impromptu office, I suppose, fun and interaction and normal things that we're trying to get back to. There doesn't have to be a trade-off between, you know, a happy office and safety. You know, we have to plan it, obviously. But the most seamless way I believe we can plan it is really by protecting our air. You know, you don't want to be nervous about passing somebody in the corridor. That's not conducive to a good working environment. It's not conducive to comfort. So again, they're just a few ideas. There's no fooling people though, and that's what our research is showing, that they want a little bit of interaction. They might want a hybrid model. They might not want to work in the office 5 days a week, and there's definitely huge benefits to the hybrid model. But in order to facilitate a hybrid model, you probably have to plan even more to make sure that you can accommodate people. And that's what a lot of real estate companies here are doing. You know, they're changing the configuration of office spaces to give employees more space. The hot desk element has to be addressed. And we'll go into that a little bit now in a minute. So to move on, I'm not going to talk in detail about the technology necessarily today, but we can take your questions obviously later on. I just put in some live examples and real life situation photos of the Novaerus devices there. And what does it do? It is inactivating microorganisms in the air in a sub-second time frame. It's, you know, the first line of protection. And we're talking about viruses, bacteria, mold, spores, and essentially all pathogens in the air. Here you'll see some examples of a small creche, and that's the smallest device, but it's right next to a little girl there. And that's, you know, I suppose highlighting the safety of the devices. And we've always approached our business, and the reason we were so interested in taking on the distribution of these devices was because we liked the science. We got the science, we understood it, and it's reputable. You know, Novaerus has tested in the most renowned labs around the world. Californian Air Review Board, you have the Korean test labs, and many more. And if you're looking at the competition, and if you're wondering what solution is for you, I would advise caution there and make sure that the testing, you know, is reputable, that it's been done in the correct circumstances. There's also lots of peer-reviewed testing that's coming out now. It took time, obviously, to do separate testing and peer-review testing, and you need to look at all the options. So just to talk a little bit about some live client case studies here, and hopefully some of these are relevant to you. Here's the Protect 200. This is the smallest Novaerus device. And, you know, it's very portable. It processes 80 meters cubed of air per hour. It's plug and play, and it's a real personal device. It's your desktop device. You can carry it around with you. Some of the applications here are, you know, live clients. So at the top there, we have a TV, one of the TV stations here in Ireland, actually. And obviously from a production perspective, they had to have people in throughout. They were considered an emergency service. And in those small offices and recording studios, the Novaerus 200 is perfect. You know, it's ideal for those type of situations. It's really suited, I suppose, in an office as well, maybe 1 to 4 people. You can put it at the center, you can wall mount it, you can place it on a desk. I spoke a little bit about the counseling and the psychotherapy services, professional services. We have solicitors and accountants from around the country who are probably in their 50s and 60s, who had to go to work, who had to continue to work, who also then want to attempt to socialize in some shape or format. And we have lots of clients who are carrying their devices around with them. They bring them to work, they bring them home. It facilitates safe working, and it facilitates safe socializing. We've had many teachers come to us and their own device because they might have underlying conditions and they had to continue to teach. So when they had to go into work, they carried their own device with them, placed it on their desk. And then in retail, we have any amount of clients in retail. There's a golf shop there, very popular in Ireland. I think it's as popular in South Africa, where you can place the device at the till. So where's the interaction? Where are the people? Where is the activity? You place the device there, and you're protecting the people as they come into your store. I have a hospitality testimonial video here, and I might actually. I'll talk about the next size device and I'll go back to it. Actually, I'll get you the link there. So the NV800 then, and where it's applied across our client base, we have restaurants, bars, cafes, open plan offices, again, recording studios. We have many filming, from a film perspective, I suppose, filming and TV. Filming has continued in Ireland. It's a large part of business over here. And we had a lot of demand from those sectors to keep extras and actors and directors and producers safe. This is my favorite device, I have to say, the 800. I think it's the most versatile. It's powerful. It processes 260 meters cubed of air per hour. It's still very portable. That's it on the stand there. It can be wall mounted. And again, it's safe 24/7. And a lot of the collateral you'll see from Novaerus in hospitals will show these devices right above beds, right above sick patients, older, younger, newborn babies. That's how safe this technology is. And it's tried and tested. And as you know, Novaerus did not jump on any bandwagon a year ago. They've been around for nearly a decade, and this technology was, this medical grade technology was already in existence. I'm going to move on now to some specific case studies. So the Protect 800 in particular, we have a client who is a service provider to a lot of the large healthcare organizations here in Ireland. Obviously, in developing drugs and vaccines and everything else, these clients had to continue working their emergency services, but also they had large scale projects and they had development that had to continue. One of the challenges our clients had was to have safe meeting spaces, which they couldn't do on site necessarily. They needed to come off site, they needed to meet in person, and these were critical projects. So what our client did was pivot, and because they had the space in their own offices, and they basically created what they're calling and what they're marketing as the safest meeting rooms in the country. They installed the Novaerus devices, you know, to ensure that they were underpinning the safety of everybody who went to those meetings. They've seen great success. In fact, some of their meetings are booked out for the next year. So from an end user perspective, those large pharma clients are now comfortable. There is an extra for our client from a sales perspective into their client. You know, they're in this for the long haul now. The clients are valued clients. They've been able to support them. They've been able to address their needs. And now they have a new revenue stream into the future. A second case study there is a real estate company in Dublin. They have some lovely offices around the city centre. However, I think in 2020, in Dublin city centre, for example, they saw a 50% decline in office letting activity. For obvious reasons, you know, the working from home being one of them. Also, you know, advances in technology meant that working from home was easier. And now we're trying to find some sort of a balance between working from home and working online. We've seen a very fast bounce back in Dublin, and I'm not sure if you're experiencing the same, but I mean, at one point or another, there was like 1.2 million square meters of available office space at some stage of development in Dublin city centre. And thankfully, reports are all telling us now that we're firmly back in recovery mode. And I think a lot of global CEOs surveyed in 2020 might have said that they were offloading office space. However, you know, I think it was 70% according to a KPMG study. But in the first quarter of 2021, that's just 17%. So whereas we assumed there would be a lot of offloading of real estate and office space, that hasn't happened. And there is a move back into offices. The company that I'm talking about here really diversified. They really changed their business model to a more sustainable office with a natural design, cyclist parking and showers, clever breakout facilities, underpinned by a combination of all three Novaerus air disinfection devices. So they have a number of buildings and a number of different sized office spaces, and they have purchased all of the devices for the various different spaces. Now with the market firmly back in recovery, they really feel that they are ahead of the game. They really have state-of-the-art facilities for companies to move into, and really they're well positioned for Q4 this year and also for lettings in Q1 of next year. There's a picture of the Defend there in one of the office spaces. You can see it's very green, it's very bright, it's very light, it's very airy, and they've had a very good reaction from their clients. This particular case study is in relation to a large retail business. I was trying to find the equivalent where you guys are, and I'm going to say Tile Africa, but I'm not sure. So essentially, they provide building materials, kitchens, taps, tiles, wood paneling, decking, everything you need for the home. And at one point or another last year, they were probably 50% down in turnover. They have 3 large showrooms. They're a very well-known brand here in our large showrooms around the country. And in each of those showrooms, they would have, you know, been very busy pre-COVID. Their customer counters would have had probably 10 to 15 staff behind the counter to support the customers who were coming in the door. So when they were allowed to open, when construction started up again at the various different stages, again, that's different in every country, they had their customer service team who were front line. They had a busy warehouse team, and they also had the logistics of managing how people come to work, how they deal with customers, how they have their lunches, etc. So that is Mark Condon. He's the CEO of Novaerus here in Ireland. The largest device there is the Defend 1050, and they placed that front and central of their showrooms, in front of their customer service counters, you know, as probably precisely where people were queuing up to speak to the customer service agents. They placed the 800s in their back office spaces, and their break rooms, and in the smaller canteens where they were operating on a staggered basis. They also had the smallest device there beside Mark, which is the NV800. They really felt it gave staff tremendous peace of mind. It was tough for a lot of companies who could continue to work to trying to protect their staff, obviously. So really they pulled out all the stops, and they went to every expense to put in the best measures to mitigate as many possible risks as they could, along with all of their other safety protocols. I have a video here. I'm going to try and link you into it, and I hope it works, but this is just a lot of our testimonials are on our YouTube page. This is Mark Condon just talking about the devices and talking about the business. So I hope this works. If not, I think I'm in trouble, but I will try and share it.
Hi, Deirdre. The video is not playing.
It's not playing. Oh, sorry. Okay, apologies. Of course it's playing for me, but it's not playing for you. Apologies. I'm going to just come out of that again. Nolene, I had sent you a link there. I don't know if you can actually play it, can you?
Where's the link?
I sent it to you an email there just before we started, just in case my link didn't work. Apologies, everybody.
Okay.
I don't know if you can get into YouTube and share it. It might be just the sharing permissions.
So my emails are closed, so I'm just opening that up.
Apologies, folks.
We can start answering some of the questions maybe while we're waiting for the video.
Am I still sharing there? Yep.
Your page, your screen is not shared anymore.
Okay.
So before Nolene manages to link us to the video, we have a question here, Simon, from Shane Han from South Africa, referring to the product Protect 200 unit. He's asking, it is only a plug and play, or it has the option for holding the charge and or wireless kind of command.
You're on mute, Simon.
Unmute, Simon.
Thank you, Christian. Yes, I see the question from Shane Hunt. Thank you very much indeed for attending. So the the 200 Protect 200 unit is indeed a plug and play. It requires electrical charge, though, obviously. So it's not permissible or to transport around without having electrical connection. But it's a very simple and effective unit. And as Deirdre has already covered within the presentation earlier, which I thought was brilliant, it treats up to 80 cubic meters per hour. So it's an effective and powerful and safe unit, small and compact and powerful, emits only purified air.
Excellent, thank you, Simon. A very interesting question from Matthias, saying, my personal feeling is that in Germany, Novaerus Technology is very well known. Congratulations to Novaerus. I just would like to find the reason why.
Quite right. And I think we have a number of international visitors, which is lovely. So welcome everybody. Welcome to all attendees from South Africa and indeed our international guests. So thank you for the question, Matthias. I believe you are from Hund Consult, if I'm not mistaken. Well, it's down to your hard work and indeed, if we may take some credit, our hard work too, the fact that Novaerus Technology is so well known. Now, it hasn't been without its challenges, and what market is different. However, we are delighted to be able to say that through the work of Hund Consult, we have some very significant references in real estate, including Jones Lang LaSalle, JLL, Deutsche Bank real estate investment arm, which is DWS, and a third one of note, which is the UN building in Bonn in Germany, which amounts to several hundred devices. So, you know, with large corporations like that, it's really testament to the technology, our effectiveness, our price point, our marketing, and everything else which is involved in the whole discussion around air purification. Because we're not alone. I mean, to be honest, there are many, many different competitors out there. And it's important for corporations to go through this due diligence and satisfy themselves that they are acquiring the best technology, which is safe, it's been scientifically validated, and all of these things Deirdre spoke so eloquently about in her presentation earlier. So I think those are the reasons that we've had such great success in Germany, quite frankly. It's down to hard work, the fact that we've been in the market, developing, patenting, refining our technology over many years, up to almost a decade at this point, to the point that we have offerings which are really appealing to the customers and what they're trying to achieve. Our cities have been hollowed out essentially due to the pandemic, but we bridge the pandemic and far beyond that as well. So it's an extremely interesting question, but I hope I've answered that for you, Matthias.
Thank you very much, Simon. Looks like we have the video ready to start.
Yeah. So this is the first video, and it's just one of our clients in Dublin with restaurants.
The Novaerus air system, as I understand it, Irish produced and manufactured, which is always great to see, cutting edge technology coming out of our country. And it's completely safe and for absolutely everyone, as there's no harmful byproducts. So we also chose to install the Novaerus air system in our kitchen because above all, we also like to make sure our staff are fully protected just like our customers. We're starting to get bookings coming back towards the office season. In September, we feel people will be back in offices locally. It's a very strong office area here around Paulsbridge, and we're looking to see they're coming out on Thursday, Fridays for lunch, and looking forward to Christmas. We're starting to get all the Christmas inquiries back in, which is great to see that restaurants are going to be back to normal towards the tail end of this year.
That's one of our hospitality clients. The second link there, if you can get it, Nolene, it would be great to play it. It's Novaerus Newman's, which is the large retail store. If people are interested in seeing it, if you can manage it, that would be fantastic.
I'll just chip in then while we're waiting. I think we have a comment or a question, comment more from Andani Ndinoyo, where he references the Occupational Health and Safety Act, South Africa, which states that provisions and guidelines for air quality requirements are necessary under hazardous chemical substances regulations. We do not rely upon chemicals for our mode of action, unlike ozone, for example. So we're not subject to biocidal regulations in South Africa, in Europe, or for that matter, anywhere else. So our technology is based on physics. We produce a special cold plasma technology called Nanostrike, extremely safe and effective, and has been proven in multiple studies, clinical studies and case studies worldwide, including, and I think this is most powerful of all, to hear the voice of the customer. As Deirdre has expressed in the presentation, there's nothing better than having a customer testimonial explaining the impact that it's had on their business, and bringing customers back through the door, which is essentially, as business people, what we're trying to facilitate. So we're providing solutions to these businesses whom desperately need some assistance, technological assistance, because quite honestly, the funding is not going to come through central government. So they have to look outwards at external solutions. But it's like the Wild West out there, unfortunately. There are so many untried and untested technologies making wild, extravagant claims which have not been supported by science. And Novaerus is almost the complete opposite of that. We've started on the basis that we need to have proof of concept, and we've gone through a very rigorous process indeed, trying to prove efficacy at every point. So we're extremely keen on collecting testimonials to support our mission in air purification. And again, as Deirdre has said, to sell pure, clean air.
And I might just add there as well, I know you talk about certifications. I mean, we have at every stage of the process supported our clients to perform risk assessments, to understand what measures they need to put in place and when. You can have a staggered approach here. You know, you might not have everybody back in your workplace immediately. You can budget, I suppose, accordingly then once you do your risk assessment on a regular basis. And that's been a huge part of our business, and we've put the time and effort into supporting our clients in that way. So they have a sounding board, so we can tell them what others are doing and give them, I suppose, best practice. And we'd be, you know, I'm sure the same could apply for yourselves.
Well said, yes.
That video might be ready to go, is it, Nolene?
Yep.
You're on mute, Nolene, but anyway.
We're proud to be protecting the customers and staff of Noyex Newman's Kitchens, as Mark Congdon explains.
Since COVID began, we've dropped in business up to about 50% between April and May. As a result of that, we immediately looked to introduce safety systems within all branches. Noyex Newman's introduced screens, hand creams, masks, and Novaerus air cleaning systems to ensure both our staff and our customers are safe at all times, and it's worked very, very well. We haven't had any major incidents since we introduced those systems.
So I think that just demonstrates the versatility of the devices across large showrooms, back offices, canteens. We have also sold these devices to churches to be used in confession boxes. You know, just to give you an example, they are everywhere. If you think about it, there's a serious issues around the world now with transport and logistics. They can be put into your truck cab, they can be put into your car, learner drivers and driving lessons. There's a backlog, I think, of about 50,000 in Ireland, people trying to get their driving license. Like these devices can be applied anywhere. And that is, I suppose, one of the greatest USPs. Of course, for us, it's an Irish device. And yes, that gives us an advantage across much of the competition here in Ireland. You know, but to have something designed and manufactured in Ireland is super for our market. So thank you. That's me pretty much. You know, we're leading with the line, nothing in the air but innovation, but the chats, but collaboration, but teamwork. And I guess our mantra really is, let's not think about what we've lost, but let's, you know, concentrate on the future. And it's about what we restore that counts. So thank you very much for having me. And if I can answer questions, I will, but Simon's doing a great job there anyway, so thank you.
Deirdre, thank you very, very much for your presentation. Not only interesting, but also full of passion, full of determination to effectively spread the word about the incredible ability of Novaerus product to bring back the certainty of a safe environment, which I believe it's paramount these days. It's paramount these days, not necessarily only because of the COVID, but because of all those things that are in the air, making the closed environments more difficult to be accepted by the public today. Thank you again. Simon, I would like to ask you to please comment in one question that we received from Julian Michaels, which is an architect. And he's asking if we could shortly comment between differences between different technologies that might be out there.
Thank you, Julian, indeed, for your question. Appreciate it. Well, I suppose the essential difference is that Novaerus products kill. So they kill pathogens, whereas others may not do that. So they're possibly trap technologies. And if they're killed technologies, there are some significant downsides with it. So the core technology inside our machines is called Nanostrike. So I think there's a related question in there in the chat that we could probably take together. So Novaerus products kill or trap and kill all pathogens, including viruses, molds, spores, allergens, VOCs, and so forth. And they treat all pathogens in the same way. So upon contact with an EM field surrounding a plasma coil, several physical reactions occur simultaneously. It's not a linear process. It's multiple concurrent processes happening at the same time, which are things like electroporation, which is boring holes through the cell wall of the microorganism, which is then bombarded by the stream of electrons generated at the plasma coil surface, oxidation, etching, and this leads to the physical distortion and destruction of the microorganism cell, including spores, by the way. So that's effectively what happens inside the machine. And that is the core difference between other types of technology. So we are kill technology or kill and trap. Our Defend product can trap pollutants on HEPA filters. So the two devices which Deirdre showed, the Protect 200 and the 800, are treatment only. But if you need to contain the content of destruction, there's a Defend product, in fact two, which contain HEPA filters and also carbon filter to trap or adsorb pollutants inside the pores of the carbon filter. So the filter itself has very high efficacy. The HEPA filters adhere to EN 1822 and remove 99.95% of particulates in the air. Now, it's worth noting finally that due to the different size and resilience of each pathogen, the time taken to treat them in the air can be different for each type of strain.
Thank you very much, Simon. I think it's a very complete explanation on that. There is a question from Tony Corsten. Hello, Tony, which is asking, has there been an interest in this technology for the wider commercial property industry in South Africa? And I will take the liberty to answer to that question. Tony, indeed, there was a wave of requests, a wave of interest expressed. But unfortunately, I have to admit that up to now, the wider and the larger property funds and property owners in South Africa have not embraced the technology. And I'm saying as yet, the rhetoric has changed. Many things now have come to a different optic in mind. As Simon was mentioning, too many technologies out there, too many promises, not necessarily certified, not necessarily able to be backed by certification done in reputable labs, whereby not a small box certified product, but rather in a living environment, in an environment which can replicate the situations that we are facing every day. So I guess that with what we call the fourth wave in South Africa and around the world, that interest will increase. We're seeing more and more requests for webinars to be held with property owners, which we'll definitely let you know more about in our future encounters. I hope that answers your question. We have another question from Mr. Stanley Fabry, which is asking if Nanostrike active or passive virus eliminating technology, it seems it's effective by passing by the nanoplasma lights before it eliminates the virus.
Yes,
Simon,
and
like
I see the question from Stanley Fabry. Stanley, thank you for that. I assume what you are implying by that is that the airstream has to pass across the coils in order to be treated, and that indeed is correct. So the devices are working 24/7, and you're going to get a constant reduction in viral load, or indeed any kind of a bacterial or a microbiological load, because the devices are working constantly. And what's more is they are very fast. They're much faster than chemical techniques or PCO techniques, for example, which works on hours and days. Ours works within the millisecond time frame. So you're getting an immediate benefit, which is additional the longer that you continue to run the machine in that environment. So I hope that does answer your question, Stanley.
Lastly, Simon, we have a question from Mike Cox, which I think it's a very important and pertinent question, which we'd like to answer before we start wrapping it up. Mike Cox is asking if, first of all, the product has been tested on COVID-contaminated aerosols and by which certification labs. And I think that it's, again, your turn.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, Mike. Indeed. So we took this in two parts. Initially, we tested the devices, both the Defend 1050 and the 800, on the bacteriophage BSL-2 for COVID. And then we applied an additional funding to get a research done on the live virus, which is obviously dangerous. So we approached a BSL level 3 laboratory in the United States, and we accomplished testing on the live virus there. So to answer the question, yes, we do have results, data on the live virus, proving efficacy against SARS-CoV-2 virus. And the studies were done, as I said, in a laboratory in the United States. So we can share those reports through our partner in South Africa, like Trey.
All right. So, like all great things, it comes when we have to also say thank you very much for attending. And we hope really that all the sharings that were expressed by the participants through their questions, and all the presentation that Deidre kindly has given us, together with Simon, answers to the questions to the participants, have brought some light, more insight in the technology, but also in the ability of the technology to be a response, a mitigating factor, a better approach to the environment, in build environment realm. We at LightRay would like to thank you all, panelists and participants. Thank you very, very much for making the time, for being here with us. You are very welcome to send us emails, to call us, and we are here to answer to you the best we can, the soonest we can. With product, stock is available. If anybody is interested to immediately jump into action, we are very, very pleased to say that we are ready to deliver. And we hope to see you in our next webinar. Thank you again to every single one of you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for
nice to talk to you. Thank you.